What happens when one of Britain's most beloved actors completely loses it on live television? In just 51 seconds, a casual chat turned into absolute chaos, and Bill Nighy stormed off Lorraine Kelly's set in front of millions of viewers. Before we get into this, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the confrontations nobody wants you to see, and the moments that get buried by PR teams. Hit that subscribe button now because you won't want to miss what happens next. Last night on Lorraine, what started as a friendly conversation about Bill Nighy's latest film quickly descended into one of the most uncomfortable moments in British television history. The tension was thick from the moment Nighy walked onto that bright yellow sofa, and within minutes, the whole thing exploded into a full-blown argument that left the entire studio in complete shock. People in the audience couldn't believe what they were seeing. The crew didn't know where to look, and Lorraine Kelly herself looked like she'd been slapped in the face. Lorraine Kelly opened the show with her usual warmth and bright energy, welcoming the legendary actor with a big smile plastered across her face. The studio lights were harsh and bright, the audience was excited and buzzing, and everything seemed perfectly normal at first. "Bill Nighy, everyone," she announced enthusiastically as the audience erupted into applause. "It's so wonderful to have you here with us this morning. You look absolutely fantastic as always. Honestly, you never age. You must tell us your secret." Nighy gave a polite but somewhat forced nod, settling into the bright yellow sofa with his trademark elegance, his long legs crossing carefully. "Thank you for having me, Lorraine," he said, his voice calm and measured, though anyone paying really close attention might have noticed a slight edge to it already, a tension in his jaw. "Now, I have to say," Lorraine began enthusiastically, leaning forward with genuine excitement, her hands clasped together. "Your new film has been getting absolutely incredible reviews from everyone. Everyone's talking about your performance. The critics are raving about it. It must feel amazing to still be at the top of your game after all these years in the industry. After such a long and distinguished career." There it was, the first crack in the facade. Nighy's smile faltered for just a second, barely noticeable, unless you were really watching, and his eyes narrowed slightly. The change was subtle, but it was definitely there. "After all these years?" he repeated slowly, his tone shifting ever so slightly. "That's an interesting way to put it, Lorraine. Very interesting choice of words." Lorraine didn't catch the warning signs at all. She was too busy maintaining her bubbly energy for the cameras and the millions of people watching at home. She pressed on with unbridled enthusiasm, completely unaware of the storm that was brewing right in front of her. "Well, you know what I mean, Bill. You've been doing this for decades now, and you're still delivering these wonderful, nuanced performances that captivate audiences around the world. It's truly inspiring, really, for all of us watching. How do you keep the passion alive after so many years? What's the secret to staying relevant in such a competitive industry?" The word relevant hung in the air like poison gas, spreading through the studio. Nighy shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his jaw tightening visibly. His long fingers gripped the edge of the sofa cushion with noticeable force. "I keep the passion alive, Lorraine, by actually caring about the craft," he said, his voice taking on a sharper, more pointed edge. "By treating it as more than just light entertainment for morning television, by respecting what I do and why I do it." The audience went completely quiet. You could genuinely feel the temperature in the studio drop several degrees. The energy shifted completely and suddenly. Lorraine's smile became strained, the corners of her mouth twitching slightly, but she tried to laugh it off with a nervous chuckle that sounded hollow and forced in the sudden silence. "Of course you do, Bill. Nobody's suggesting otherwise. I would never suggest that. I'm just saying it's remarkable that you're still so passionate and dedicated to your work after all this time, that you still care so deeply about every single performance. That's really admirable. We should all be so committed." "Still dedicated?" Nighy's voice rose slightly, echoing through the studio, in a way that made people shift uncomfortably in their seats. His accent became more pronounced, each word carefully and deliberately enunciated. "As if dedication has an expiration date? As if being older somehow means I should be less committed to my work? As if there's some magical age where actors are supposed to just give up and be grateful for whatever scraps people are willing to throw our way?" Lorraine held up her hands defensively, her bracelets jingling softly, desperately trying to calm the situation before it escalated any further. She could feel it slipping away from her control. Her producer was definitely screaming instructions in her earpiece right now, but she maintained her composure as best she could, or at least tried to. Bill, please, I think you're misunderstanding me here. You're taking this completely the wrong way. I'm paying you a compliment. A genuine compliment. I'm celebrating your career and all your achievements. I'm a huge fan of your work. We all are. Everyone here is. Are you? Nighy leaned forward now, his eyes locked intensely on hers, his body language becoming noticeably more aggressive and confrontational. Because it sounds very much like you're suggesting that my age is somehow remarkable in itself. That I should be grateful to still be working at all. That the fact I can still do my job competently is some kind of medical miracle. The studio crew exchanged extremely nervous glances from their positions behind the cameras. This was going off the rails fast, and absolutely everyone knew it. The floor manager was making frantic gestures with his hands, trying to signal something, but nobody knew whether to cut to commercial or keep rolling on this disaster. Lorraine tried desperately to redirect the conversation, her professional instincts kicking in hard. She picked up her note cards and shuffled them with slightly shaking hands. Let's talk about the film itself, shall we? She said with forced brightness, practically forcing enthusiasm into her voice. Your character goes through quite an emotional and powerful journey in this one. There's that incredibly powerful scene in the second act that really moved me. What drew you to this particular role? What made you say yes to this specific project? But Nighy wasn't backing down. Not even close. He was just getting started, and everyone could sense it. What drew me to it? He said, his voice absolutely dripping with sarcasm and contempt. The same thing that draws me to any role, Lorraine. The story, the character, the truth of it, the raw humanity. Not the paycheck, not the publicity tour, not sitting on bright yellow sofas being patronized by people who quite obviously haven't done their homework. Lorraine's face flushed bright red. You could actually see the anger starting to bubble up beneath her carefully maintained professional exterior. I'm not patronizing you, Bill, she said, her voice noticeably tighter now, trembling slightly. I'm trying to have a genuine conversation with you here. I'm trying to give you a platform to talk about your important work. A conversation? Nighy let out a bitter laugh that was almost cruel in its harshness. You're literally reading questions off note cards that some 22-year-old researcher wrote this morning while drinking their overpriced coffee. You probably haven't even seen the film. Have you? Have you actually sat down and watched it? The accusation hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Lorraine's eyes widened noticeably, and for a moment she looked genuinely hurt and exposed. Her voice dropped slightly. That's not fair at all, Bill, she said more quietly, but there was steel underneath the softness. I watch absolutely everything before my guests come on this show. I take my job very seriously. Do you? Nighy challenged aggressively, his voice getting progressively louder. Then tell me specifically about the scene in the third act, the one by the river. The one where my character has that crucial moment of realization. What did you think of that particular moment? What did it mean to you personally? Lorraine hesitated. It was only for a split second, maybe even less. But in television, a split second might as well be an entire eternity. In that tiny, devastating pause, everything changed completely. Nighy stood up abruptly and suddenly, his tall frame unfolding dramatically from the sofa as he pulled off his microphone with angry, jerky movements. That's exactly what I thought, he said coldly, his voice like ice. Bill, please sit down, Lorraine said urgently, her voice tight and controlled but with an unmistakable edge of desperation. We're live right now. We're on television. Millions of people are watching this. I'm perfectly aware we're live, Nighy snapped sharply, his voice cutting through the studio like a knife. I'm also acutely aware that I've been doing this job considerably longer than you've been on television, Lorraine. I've been acting professionally since before you had your very first presenting gig, and I'm tired. I'm so bloody tired of being treated like some curiosity. Some dusty old relic who should be pathetically grateful for the attention. Some aging actor who's somehow lucky to still be getting any work at all. Lorraine stood up too now, her famous Scottish temper beginning to show through the cracks in her professional demeanor. Her voice rose sharply to match his volume. "Now, hold on just a minute, Bill. Just hold on 1 second. I've been nothing but respectful to you since you walked through that door. I welcomed you warmly. I praised your work effusively. What more could you possibly want from me?" "Respectful?" Nighy's voice dripped with heavy sarcasm and contempt. "You've been condescending from the absolute moment I sat down on this ridiculous sofa. All this endless talk about my age, about how surprisingly amazing it is that I can still do my job, about how remarkable it is that I'm still somehow relevant. Would you ever say that to Tom Hardy? Would you say that to Benedict Cumberbatch? Would you tell them how absolutely amazing it is that they can still act?" "I was complimenting your longevity," Lorraine shot back immediately, her voice rising to a level that was rarely heard on daytime television. "I was celebrating your incredible career. I was trying to honor the fact that you've been a constant and important presence in British cinema for so many years. That's a good thing, Bill. That's something to be proud of." "You were making me feel like a bloody museum piece." Nighy's composure finally cracked completely and dramatically, his voice booming through the studio. "Every single question you've asked has had this underlying undercurrent of surprise that I'm still relevant, still working, still breathing apparently. Every word out of your mouth has been dripping with this amazement that someone my age can still string a coherent sentence together." The audience sat in absolutely stunned silence. You could actually hear people gasping audibly. Some people in the front row had their phones out, desperately recording every single second of this complete disaster unfolding in real time right in front of them. The cameramen didn't know where to point their expensive equipment. Should they cut away completely? Keep rolling on this total car crash? Nobody was giving them any clear directions because the producers were frozen solid in the booth, completely unable to believe what they were witnessing. One camera operator later said it was the most uncomfortable moment he'd experienced in 15 years of working in television. The makeup artist in the wings had her hand over her mouth. The stage manager looked like he might be sick. Lorraine took a deep, visible breath, clearly trying to regain control of her show and her rapidly fraying emotions. Her hands were shaking noticeably as she gripped the edge of her desk tightly. "Bill, I think you're being incredibly unfair right now. Incredibly and unreasonably unfair. If you felt uncomfortable with my questions, you could have just said so politely, instead of attacking me so viciously on my own show. In front of literally millions of people watching, we could have had a civilized discussion about this." "Your show?" Nighy repeated mockingly and theatrically, gesturing around the entire studio with dramatic disdain. "Yes, it's your show, isn't it? Where you bring people on to smile mechanically and nod obediently and promote their work and never have a real, genuine conversation about anything that actually matters. Where everything is superficial and safe and carefully designed not to offend anyone or challenge anyone or make anyone actually think about anything meaningful. That's what people want," Lorraine exclaimed loudly, her frustration boiling over completely now. Her voice cracked slightly with raw emotion. "Not everyone wants to have some deep philosophical debate at 8:30 in the bloody morning. People are getting ready for work. They're having their breakfast. They want to feel good. They want to be entertained. They want to see their favorite actors and hear about their exciting projects and have a nice, pleasant time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's everything wrong with it when it reduces artists to performing monkeys." Nighy's voice echoed dramatically through the studio, bouncing off the walls. "When it turns genuine craft into meaningless sound bites and promotional content. When it makes us all complicit in this horrible machine that grinds absolutely everything down to the lowest possible common denominator." Lorraine's eyes flashed with genuine anger now. Her professional mask had completely slipped away. "You know what, Bill? If you hate these interviews so much, if you genuinely think you're above talking to the regular people who actually watch your films and support your career and buy expensive tickets to see your work, then maybe you shouldn't do them at all. Maybe you should just stay home in your mansion." "Maybe I shouldn't," Nighy fired back immediately without hesitation. "Maybe none of us should sit here and play this ridiculous game where we pretend these conversations mean anything whatsoever. Where we pretend there's any real substance to any of this nonsense. It's all just marketing. It's all just selling. It's all just bullshit." "Then why did you agree to come on?" Lorraine demanded furiously, her voice shaking with anger and genuine hurt. Why did you say yes to being here if you were just going to throw a tantrum like a spoiled child? Why did you waste everyone's valuable time? My time? The crew's time? The audience's time? The word tantrum was absolutely the final straw. Nighy's face went bright red, his neck veins becoming clearly visible. He stepped closer to Lorraine's desk, his tall frame towering over it intimidatingly. A tantrum? I'm expressing completely legitimate frustration with how I'm being treated, with how we're all being treated in this industry. And you're calling it a tantrum? You're dismissing everything I'm saying by infantilizing me? You're acting like one. Lorraine snapped back instantly, not backing down even an inch. You're acting exactly like a spoiled child who's not getting exactly what they want. I've had hundreds of guests on this show over the years, Bill. Literally hundreds. And not one of them has behaved the way you're behaving right now. Not one. Not even the notoriously difficult ones. Maybe they should have, Nighy shouted, his voice reaching new dramatic heights. Maybe if more people called out this superficial nonsense, we'd actually have something worth watching on television. Maybe if people stopped being so polite and complicit, something might actually change in this broken industry. Well, you're not going to call anything out on my show. Lorraine's voice was shaking with visible anger now, her whole body trembling. This is my show, Bill. Mine. I built it from nothing, and I worked damn hard to make it something people genuinely enjoy. I'm up at 4 in the morning every single day. I do my research thoroughly. I care deeply about my guests. I give them a valuable platform. And I don't deserve this. I absolutely don't deserve to be attacked like this. For a moment, just a brief flicker, Nighy seemed to falter slightly. A shadow of something, maybe regret, maybe recognition, crossed his face quickly. His shoulders dropped slightly. But then he shook his head firmly and decisively, as if dismissing whatever thought had briefly entered his mind. I can't do this, he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else in the room. I just can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and pretend everything is fine. Then don't, Lorraine said coldly, her voice like sharp ice. Nobody's forcing you to stay here. The door's right there. You're completely free to leave anytime you want. Nighy looked at her for a long, tense moment. Then at the cameras, capturing every single second. Then at the shocked faces throughout the audience. Then back at her. His expression was genuinely hard to read. A complex mixture of anger and sadness and defiance. You know what? You're absolutely right about that. Nobody's forcing me. I don't have to be here at all. He yanked his microphone pack off his belt with an angry, violent gesture and tossed it onto the bright yellow sofa. It landed with a heavy thud that echoed through the completely silent studio. Lorraine stood rigidly with her arms crossed tightly, watching him intently with a mixture of anger, disbelief, and something that might have been deep disappointment. This is completely unbelievable, she said slowly, shaking her head. Absolutely unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like this in my entire career. What's unbelievable? Nighy said, his voice dropping to something quieter but no less intense, each word deliberate and measured, is that you genuinely can't see what I'm talking about. You honestly think I'm the problem here. You think I'm the one being unreasonable. You are the problem here, Bill, Lorraine said firmly, her voice steady now despite everything. You came onto my show. You insulted me personally. You insulted my work. You insulted my research. You insulted my audience. And now you're walking out like you're making some grand statement. But all you're doing is being rude. All you're doing is being unprofessional. Nighy laughed, but there was absolutely no humor in it whatsoever. It was a hollow, bitter sound. Of course that's what you think. Of course the problem is that I'm being rude, not that the entire system is fundamentally broken. Not that we're all trapped in this cycle of meaningless content. The system isn't broken, Bill. Your attitude is... Lorraine shot back without any hesitation. Now, are you staying or going? Because we have other guests waiting backstage, people who actually want to be here, and I'm not going to waste any more of my time on this. Make a decision. The ultimatum hung between them like a physical thing. For a few seconds that felt like hours, neither of them moved at all. They just stared at each other intensely. Two professionals at the absolute end of their rope. The studio was so quiet you could hear the camera equipment humming, the air conditioning, someone in the audience shifting nervously in their seat. Then Nighy took a deliberate step back from the desk. "I'm going," he said simply, his voice flat now. This was a mistake. All of it. Coming here. Trying to engage. Expecting anything different. "Fine," Lorraine said curtly, her jaw visibly set. "The door's right there. Don't let it hit you on the way out." Nighy turned toward the exit, his movements sharp and angry. Then he paused and looked back at her one more time, his hand on his hip. "For what it's worth, Lorraine, I didn't come here to fight with you. I really didn't. I just wanted to be treated like a person, not a commodity, not a product to be sold. And I wanted a guest who could act professionally for 20 minutes, Lorraine replied, her voice hard as stone. "I guess we both left disappointed today, didn't we?" That was it, the final exchange, the last words between them. Nighy's face set into a hard expression, his jaw clenched, and he walked toward the studio door without another word. His footsteps were the only sound as he crossed the floor, past the crew members who stepped aside to let him through, past the cameras that followed his every move, past the shocked audience members whose mouths were hanging open. "Bill, wait!" someone from the production team called out. A young woman with a clipboard, but he ignored her completely. He didn't even turn his head. He just kept walking with long, determined strides toward the exit. Lorraine watched him go, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She looked shaken, angry, hurt, and maybe a little bit sad all at once. Her eyes were glistening slightly, though whether from anger or emotion was hard to tell. The bright studio lights seemed somehow harsher now, more glaring. The yellow sofa where Nighy had sat moments before looked empty and sad. As Nighy reached the door, he pushed it open with more force than necessary. The door swung wide, slamming against the wall with a bang that made everyone in the studio flinch. He disappeared through it, without looking back, without a wave, without any acknowledgement, just gone. The sound of the door slamming echoed through the studio like a gunshot, making several people in the audience jump in their seats. Lorraine stood there for a moment longer, staring at where he'd been, her hands gripping the edge of her desk so hard. Her knuckles were bone white. Then, slowly, deliberately, she sat back down in her chair. She took a breath, then another, trying to center herself. She looked at the camera, her professional mask attempting to slip back into place, though you could see the immense effort it took. Her voice was slightly unsteady when she finally spoke, trembling at the edges. "Well?" she said, managing a weak smile that didn't reach her eyes at all. "That was unexpected. That was certainly unexpected. Not what any of us were anticipating this morning." The audience didn't know whether to laugh or applaud or sit in uncomfortable silence. Most chose silence, the tension still thick and heavy in the air like fog. Lorraine shuffled her notes with trembling hands, clearly trying to compose herself and somehow move on with the show. You could see her taking slow, deliberate breaths, trying to calm her racing heart. "We're going to take a quick break," she announced, her voice getting stronger with each word. "And when we come back, we'll have our next guest. Someone who hopefully knows how to have a civil conversation. Someone who actually wants to be here." The dig at Nighy was obvious and petty, and a few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. But as the show cut to commercial and the studio lights dimmed slightly, the damage was already done. The confrontation was over, finished, complete. In those 51 seconds of pure, unfiltered conflict, one of Britain's most respected actors had torn apart one of its most beloved morning shows. Nobody in that studio would ever forget what they just witnessed.